everyone. Welcome to the One More Thing podcast. Today I'm joined with Dr. Larry Baucom. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. How you doing?
Good. It's all good, man. Week 2 of the 7 signs. Man, what a great sermon. Again, I love the perspective that you're taking on these signs, aka miracles, whatever you want to call them. But the way you're situating those really is causing me to think a lot, about just the text itself, what these texts really mean. And then I think the most important thing for our community is how do we walk out of these doors and live,
right?
Like apply what you're saying. So I have some questions based upon the sermon. One of the first things you said that really hit home for me, because it's really funny how you and I have similar backgrounds and upbringings and where we are now. But you talked about how you set up the talk by saying, Jesus is really close to his hometown, just a few miles away, and he couldn't do any miracles there.
Right.
Because he didn't have a clean slate. I thought that was freaking brilliant. What is it about me going back to my town in Louisiana, or you going back to Nashville, why is there truth to that sentiment that people just look at us and go, yeah, I know that dude. I know that guy. That discounts decades of work that we may have done post our life there.
I think it's not only true in your hometown. I think it's also true in your family. That your mother or your sister or brother, hey, I know you, and you may think that you're coming up with some great insight, and you may be, but they discount it because they don't see you as an authority. They see you as somebody who was in first grade or whatever, and I think that's true. I have a friend of mine. His name is Gary, and Gary and I grew up together. And the big joke for Gary and I, we were in first, second, third, fourth grade together. In third grade, the teacher asked him when his birthday was, and he didn't know. Third grade, but I did. I said his birthday's March 31st. So from then on, I call Gary every year on his birthday, on March 31st. And he says, I've been waiting on the call. Here's the guy that knew my birthday before I did. But he's a master pool builder. I mean, he built pools in the Bahamas for people out of Nashville, movie stars, country music, legends. He tells their names. I can't remember who they were specifically, but you would know them.
Yeah.
And he's called in to fix or create these unbelievable swimming pools. And I look at him as a kid who couldn't remember his birthday. So it kind of goes both ways now.
Right,
Think,
right.
How could he have such expertise when he can't even remember his birthday?
Right.
But it's been a joke for a long time. But it is unfortunate where you have credibility with others. I mean, you have a PhD. That means you could teach in any university in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's a qualification. You and I both have it.
Yep.
But if we go back home,
Yeah.
you mean nothing, man. It doesn't matter. You don't have anything on me. I don't have anything on you. We're just the same Troy and Larry as we were in the family unit. And where others see maybe a little more credibility, no, it doesn't work that way.
My dad calls the PhD. He goes, "What is that? A post hole digger? Like,
Right.
what is that? Like, because we used to have those.
Oh, yeah.
Those little things.
My favorite joke about PhDs, they're highly esteemed in Louisiana. And you know what you call a PhD in Louisiana? Oh, waiter. so that's kind of... So that fits so well.
It does.
But back to the text, Jesus could not do some things in Nazareth because they just did not believe he could embody the whole Spirit of God as he was so able to do other places. They just had their hesitancy, and sometimes you just got to be all in, or it doesn't work.
Yeah, I thought that was brilliant because, I made an argument from the stage a couple of weeks ago was the Nazareth thinking was, if you think of it one way, like they look at Jesus as being incapable, but the other side is maybe they thought there's no way anything good could come from where we are.
Right.
And there's that sort of impoverished mindset like that I think, whether we're talking about geographical locations of where we come from, but it can also bleed into our spiritual life. Like we don't feel like we deserve anything from God, and that there's no one there to help us, which we'll talk about this coming week. But when you got into the text, one of the things that you brought up, and I'm trying to spark my memory from it, was this notion of as Jesus speaks to this royal authority. And I got questioned by it by Darwin the idea of seeing things that then I'll believe it when I see it
Right.
seems counterintuitive to the call of what Christ is asking us. It's this. I don't like the word faith. I
Right.
think faith has so much baggage and
Right.
bias, but it's
Agreed.
trust. Do you trust me? Go home and take care of your son. Why do you think, other than just experiential, existential things, why do people need to see things, especially in our modern culture, before we come to accept? Why is trust, especially particularly with God, so hard for humans to do?
Well, I think, first of all, we're post-Renaissance. We're in the scientific age.
Yeah.
To where there's evidence, and part of the scientific method is what I call a reductionist mentality, or reductionist philosophy. We want to find out what water is. If we really want to know what water is, we got to break it down to H2O.
Right.
Right? We break everything down to its smallest component. And sometimes in the area of faith, we try to do that too. We want to get it back to its very basic, and we can explain everything, hydrogen, oxygen. We want to be able to explain it all. But within that, in the church and in the understanding, when we lose the mystery, and I think in the pre-Renaissance age, God gave babies, God brought the rain, God brought the hail, whatever natural disaster was all. It was a very mysterious universe. When science came in, it became very organized. Now we have weather forecasters, and we know what's going on. But there's still some things that are in our psyche and in our makeup that we do not know. That there is a connection between stress and your physical health. Now, the doctor may not be able to tell you what is bringing on the stress, but there's a reason that we do this. But I guess the other is, why do you do this? Why do you act this way? And I think those are questions that are non-reductionist type questions that we want the scientific idea.
Yeah.
We want to know there's got to be a reason. I'll believe it, when I see it.
Yeah.
And I understand that too. I mean, I jokingly said, the parking lot's supposed to be paved on Monday. I'll believe it when I see it. Well, now it's being pushed to Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we, but some things. But when it comes to areas of faithfulness and trust, I think that we jump in, we do the best we can, and we trust for the rest. And the mystery of life it still has some more mysterious elements, which I will back up. When I was 16, it wasn't quite so mystery. I had it figured out.
Yeah.
I knew all the answers. My dad was dumber than a rock.
That's right.
But I was pretty smart at 16 years old. I mean, I was an honor roll student, all this stuff. But then when I came back from college at about 20 years old, I just was amazed how smart my dad had gotten those 2 or 3 years.
That's right.
And the older I get, the smarter he got.
That's right.
And then I began to realize the more, and as we're academics, the more we know, the more we realize we truly don't know. And we're humbled by the reality that we don't know so many things. But sometimes sight is an enemy of faithfulness. If I have to see everything before if I can't see it, then I won't believe the mystery. I need to see the fact that God lives in me. How can I see that?
Yeah.
Some things are better felt.
Yeah.
Or understood, and a deeper understanding, and it moves beyond simply a reductionist mentality.
So how is that? And this was the question that was posed to me, and I said, I don't think that's what Dr. Baucom was espousing or promoting. I didn't hear in your sermon a call for blind faith.
No.
I heard a call to trust God.
Correct.
How are those different? How would you say like those are different? Because in the more evangelical mind, there seems to be a type of like blind faith that's built on a type of literalism, a type of certitude about this particular text we call the Bible.
Right. No, I think you're there. I would agree with all that. You're there. I think that blind faith is simply believing because I was told.
Yes.
Just believe it. Just believe it. Just believe it. Trusting God says, I understand and I'm diligent about life and people, but some things I cannot control. And it's not, I just need to have blind faith. I just need to realize there's some things I can't control. I love this expression, and I love to kick a hole in. As people say, when God, closes a door, he opens a window. Well, I want to go, that's ridiculous. So if God closes a door, he opens it. So I now have to learn to fly? Why can't you just, well, then he opens another door. And this is what I think, and I've said this before. If this is the door I'm going to walk through and it shuts, I'm going to kick the door down.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's just my mentality. I'm going to go where I think I need to go based on my heart connected with God. But it's not a blind faith, but it is I don't believe things blindly.
Yeah.
But I do trust God regardless. Whether it rains or doesn't, I still trust God with my life every day that He's there.
And for me, there seems to be almost this sort of monochromatic, mechanistic part of blind faith. Well, I just do this because I'm told, and this is what the Bible says. Whereas trust doesn't say, like you said it from the stage, hey, it's not going to be all hunky-dory all the time. Fear is still going to be integrated even when I trust. Like me moving to Florida, there was a lot of trust in God. It absolutely was not a blind faith. We did all the due diligence we could.
Right.
But there was still a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt. But that was all in the gumbo of the trust, right?
Agreed. But blind faith, I'm not. Just believe it. Whatever I tell you, just believe it. That's maybe not blind faith as much as stupidity.
Yeah.
Or maybe those could be synonymous. And there is one thing I wanted to bring up, and you may not bring it, so I'll bring it up.
Yeah.
It's this, that in the 7 signs it's a teaching curriculum for Jesus to teach His disciples. And this is this morning early, so I don't want to give up anything for this weekend. But one of the things I do think is that in this curriculum, I've been part of Suncoast Academy for many years. And, I'm the guy that wrote the original charter. Steve Crump is the principal. He's the guy that made it all happen. I don't take anything away from him. Mm-hmm. He is the mastermind. But I did do a lot of the paperwork up front and suggested the responsive classroom model. Responsive classroom model is not the curriculum itself, but they try to teach children. I heard Stacy say this last week. We teach children how to learn. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's like the curriculum is not nearly as important as you learn the process of how to learn. Mm-hmm. And I think what Jesus, when He was talking to His disciples, guys, I could talk to you about the Torah or about the expectations of everything, but what I want you to do is teach you how to be in this connection with God. Mm-hmm. And it's not about, the doctrines or the theology or the different atonement theories, but it's about how do I get you to find God in your life on a regular basis? How can I teach you? And at college, you say, we don't teach kids to be critical thinkers.
Yeah.
They've not thought critically until now. We want you to think.
That's right.
And Jesus was working that same process with His disciples. Be critical thinkers, but also be guys who realize the kingdom of God is in you and it's around you. And you can see it modeled in me. And maybe when I'm gone in 3 years, you'll realize that I don't have to be at the wedding of Cana to see a miracle perform. I didn't have to go back to Capernaum. He's teaching them this principle that God is everywhere at all times and can do amazing things, and you don't have to be present in every circumstance.
That's right.
So I thought that was kind of fun, food for thought.
Was.
And it leads us up to the next week, which is about the guy at the pool of Bethesda, which is a story all of its own, but we'll go into that next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, man. I want to just close by that story you told at the end. I'd never heard before about Ryan and the hog, but it just illuminated that point, which you mentioned about I don't have to be present for God to do incredible things because God is always already present.
Right.
And the story you told of Ryan just sort of, again, illuminated that you just so happened to be at the site. And it blew your son's mind, right? Recap that real quick for us and why that was just a point for you to kind of bring up.
It was late at night. I stopped by the youth group, and I was headed home at about 10 o'clock. He's going to be following in a minute. And I see on the way, I'm shortening the story, there's a dead hog in the road. As I pull over to think, I need to get this hog out of the road before someone will hit it, I have to wait a few minutes for traffic to clear, and I want to be sure, that there's plenty of time.
Yeah.
But there's one more truck and one more car coming. The truck comes and intersects the hog at the same time the car does. When that happens, the truck clips the hog, pushes it into the side of the road, and the car that it hits is Ryan's Prelude. and Ryan hits the hog just a little bit, but slides past me as I'm watching in horror. My son slide down the road, across the road, down a bank, and hit a tree head on.
Jeez.
And I jumped out quickly, and he jumped out quickly. And when he came up the bank, the story is I was standing there shining the light, not in his face, but down, and he goes, "Dad?" Like, how in the world are you here?
Yeah.
I just totaled my car, and you haven't walked 10 steps, and your dad's right there. And I helped him up the bank and looked at his face to make sure he had some airbag abrasions. But the point of the story is that so many times in our lives, when we're bewildered, open our eyes, and God is always there.
That's it.
He's always there. And that's powerful to me because it gives me this not blind faith, but it gives me this confidence and trust. God is always there for me. He always has been. He always will be. And if he'd be there for me, then I think he'd be there for everybody.
Yeah, that was an awesome moment, man.
So,
Well, that's it. Can't wait for this Sunday. It's going to be a good one. And
I'll close the story this week about Ryan hitting the deer. Not just kidding.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks for being here, Pastor.
My pleasure. See you.